Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, sponsored by the Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health, or ASPPH. I am Monica Statler, Director of Graduate Training Programs here at ASPPH. The purpose of today's webinar is to share information about fellowship opportunities sponsored by ASPPH for soon-to-be graduates and recent alumni of our member CEPH accredited schools and programs of public health. During today's webinar, we will share information about fellowship opportunities at two federal agencies, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. Information regarding our fellowship program with the CDC will come in our next two webinars on January 24th and February 14th. In addition, today, we will provide an overview to the general application process for all ASPPH fellowships. We're also joined by a former fellow who we've asked to share her own personal experience in the fellowship. Ms. Anna Witt, a recent graduate of the ASPPH Fellowship Program with EPA, will be joining us. Lastly, we have allocated time at the end of the program for questions and answers. Before we start, a few housekeeping details. At any time during the webinar, you can type your question into the questions box, which you can find on the toolbar at the bottom of your computer screen, as shown here. We will address all questions during the question and answer session after the formal presentation. Now to begin. The Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health, known as ASPPH, is the voice of accredited public health education. We represent schools and programs accredited by the Council on Education for Public Health, or as commonly referenced, CEPH. ASPPH is pleased to partner with federal agencies, including the EPA, the CDC, and most recently, USDA, to offer public health training opportunities for students and recent graduates of our members' schools and programs. Now, you might ask yourself, what distinguishes the ASPPH training programs from all of the other fellowships out there? First and foremost, with over 35 years of training program experience, ASPPH provides highly respected and recognized mentor training programs specifically aimed at fostering the growth of early career public health professionals. We have time-tested relationships with federal agencies that are involved in public health, such as CDC and EPA, and previously with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA. The performance of our fellows speaks for itself, as a significant number of our program participants go on to become full-time employees or contractors at their host agencies. In addition, as an ASPPH fellow, you'll become part of a network of over 2,300 ASPPH fellowship and internship alumni who are public health leaders in private, nonprofit, academic, and government organizations. Wherever you are in your career, you can always contact ASPPH and ASPPH fellow and intern alumni for networking, advice, and support. This year, I am pleased to introduce you all to the newest fellowship program, a partnership with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The ASPPH USDA Fellowship will provide hands-on training in rural health. It's the first of its kind to be offered at ASPPH, and we are thrilled to provide this new opportunity for our students. I will talk a bit more about this program a little later. But first, what are ASPPH fellowships? ASPPH fellowships, are graduate level training programs that provide effective practical preparation for early career professionals through the enhanced interplay between the didactic educational experience and fundamental public health concepts and real world experiences that enable our students to apply those concepts. Our fellowships are long-term training assignments that are typically 1 to 2 years and in some circumstances 3 years. Fellowships are open to recent graduates, defined as students who will have received a master's or doctorate degree by the start of the fellowship, or alumni who have graduated within the previous 5 years of the start date of the fellowship. Applicants' degrees must come from ASPPH member institutions. During this presentation, we will focus on fellowship opportunities that are scheduled to begin in the summer and early fall of 2023, specifically positions with the USDA and the EPA. As mentioned a bit earlier, we'll discuss opportunities with the CDC and upcoming webinars in January and February. To reiterate, to be eligible for ASPPH fellowship programs, all applicants must have received a master's or doctorate degree from an ASPPH member, CEPH accredited school or program of public health. The graduate degree must have been earned prior to the beginning of the fellowship and no earlier than the previous 5 years. We're often asked if you must have an MPH degree specifically, or if it's okay to have an MSPH or MHS. The answer really depends on where you received your degree. If you attended an ASPPH member School of Public Health, then any graduate degree received through the School of Public Health is acceptable. If you've attended an ASPPH member Program of Public Health, only those degrees which are accredited by CEPH are eligible, and this will vary by program. The same principle applies to doctoral degrees. They must be from a member CEPH accredited school or program of public health. In addition, all applicants for ASPPH fellowships must also be U.S. citizens or hold visas permitting permanent residence in the U.S. to be eligible. In other words, they must have your green card if not a citizen. For international students who are on today's webcast, we suggest you check with your school's career services offices, as well as the ASPPH website, publichealthjobs.org, to find opportunities for which you might be eligible. You may also research opportunities available directly through the federal agency in which you are interested. ASPPH fellowship assignments are 12-month placements. Some ASPPH programs offer extensions for 2 and possibly 3 years based on the availability of funding at the host agency and the satisfactory progress of the fellow. Fellows receive a training stipend, an allowance for health insurance premiums, and in some cases, a travel and training allowance. The stipends and allowances vary by program and fellowship location. All fellows are required to establish goals and objectives that they will accomplish during their placement. These goals and objectives are established in collaboration with host agency mentors and are reported to ASPPH at the beginning of the fellowship. Fellows will then report to ASPPH and their mentors on their progress in accomplishing their plan throughout the assignment period. At the end of the assignment, each fellow is required to submit a final report and assessment. Specific fellowship opportunities will be discussed in just a moment, but for now, the best person to describe a program is somebody who's experienced it. As such, we're pleased that Anna Witt can be with us today. Anna recently completed her ASPPH fellowship at the EPA in the Office of Chemical Safety and Pollution Prevention, Office of Pollution Prevention and Toxics, located here in Washington, D.C. Anna, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, my name's Anna Whitty. As Monica mentioned, I just finished my fellowship at the EPA, and I'm now working as a permanent employee. I started my fellowship in October 2021 with the Office of Pollution Prevention, doing a project on kind of a data analysis project. I was looking at some of their modeling programs and testing them for sensitivity for different types of scenarios. And I was scheduled to present in abroad at a conference at the end of my fellowship, but ended up taking a permanent job offer with the Office of Water, which I'm now working in a few months before the end of my fellowship. I got a lot of networking out of my fellowship and training. It gave me a lot of freedom to reach out to other people in the EPA, learn about what they're doing, and kind of have control over what I was working on and how I wanted to direct my projects. It gave me access to mentors in the EPA that I'm still in touch with. And I would love to talk with you all at the end if you have questions about my specific experiences or what projects look like for fellows. But yeah, I'll stick around to the end. And this was a very, very important resource for me to learn about working as a federal or just government in general public health servant. And this was one of the best experiences I could have been a part of. So thanks. Back to you, Monica.
Great. Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing your experience with us. Now we're going to discuss the ASPPH programs that are currently accepting applications. So we're very excited to announce the new fellowship opportunities that will begin in 2023 with the ASPPH USDA Rural Health Fellowship Program and the ASPPH EPA Environmental Health Fellowship Program. The ASPPH USDA Fellowship is currently open and accepting applications. The deadline for that program is January 11th. The ASPPH EPA Fellowship application cycle is also open, and that deadline is January 31st. These deadlines apply to all fellowship materials. So even letters of recommendation, faculty advisor verification, et cetera, are also due on these on these dates. We'll discuss these more in a few minutes. As mentioned earlier, during our next two webinars on January 24th and February 14th, we will talk about new opportunities with the CDC. That application cycle for the CDC Fellowship will open on January 20th. For now, we're going to encourage you to apply to the programs with the USDA and EPA. By participating in the ASPPH USDA Rural Health Fellowship Program, the selected fellow will have the opportunity to contribute to USDA programs related to rural health, lead the development of tools to better understand and access USDA programs that can be used by federal and non-federal partners. They will prepare and implement rural health initiatives or strategies with USDA programs and federal and non-federal partners. And they will build and maintain relationships across USDA and between USDA and its partners. This fellowship program is the first of its kind to be offered by ASPPH. The fellowship will be based in Washington, D.C., but hybrid and remote candidates will also be considered. The placement is for 12 months, beginning in June 2023, and it will have the possibility of a 1-year extension. The goal of the ASPPH EPA Environmental Health Fellowship Program is to provide professional training and opportunities for early career public health professionals to be involved with EPA on current and emerging environmental public health needs. The program provides fellows the opportunity to train under nationally recognized experts who work to protect human health and the environment at the national and international level. Potential training areas include public health and climate crisis, environmental justice and civil rights, clean, healthy air for all communities, safety of chemicals for people and the environment, and children's environmental health. Fellowship locations are primarily in Washington, D.C. and Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. However, there are occasional opportunities open at EPA regional offices. The 12-month placements are expected to start on around November 1st, 2023, and it will be possible for a 1-year extension. Information regarding ASPPH fellowships is available through your own career services or student liaison offices at your school or program of public health. In addition, you may also easily access information online, including all application deadlines and detailed application instructions. Just go to the main page of the ASPPH website and click on the link for students and alumni at the top of the page. then click Fellowships and Internships. You can also go directly to the Fellowships application portal where you can create an account and apply. A great way to stay up to date about training opportunities is to subscribe to the ASPPH Friday letter. We announce all our fellowship openings through the ASPPH Friday letter and advertise partner opportunities as well. I'll now talk about the application process. To apply for a fellowship, applicants first need to create an account at the ASPPH application portal if you don't already have one. For those of you who already have an account in our system, you can also sign in from this page. Now to begin, there are 5 main components of the application package: your CV or resume with suggested references, 2 recommendation letters, which are specific to the program being applied to. So suggested references are individuals with whom the applicant has built a substantial relationship in the following areas: academia, public health practice, volunteer, community service, or other professional situations or colleagues that can effectively address your skills, qualities, and personal attributes. It really is important to select references who can speak well to your assets and abilities that will make you a strong candidate for the fellowship. In addition, a graduate transcript from your school or program of public health is required for the fellowship. You may submit an unofficial transcript or an official transcript. However, if you submit an unofficial transcript, you will be required to submit the official transcript upon beginning your fellowship if you're selected. You will also need to include a brief essay of no more than 1,500 words, which is specific to the position to which you are applying. And if you applied only one position, you only need to submit 1 essay. But if you apply to 3 positions, which you're allowed to do, you will need to submit 3 different essays. Oftentimes those essays are very similar, but they're tailored to the particular position to which you're applying. In the essay, you will want to explain your personal and professional interests, your strengths, and qualifications for succeeding in this particular EPA fellowship or USDA fellowship assignment, and how it will benefit your long-term career plans in the field of public health or in environmental health or rural health, depending on which program to which you're applying. Please note that special consideration will be given to candidates with exposure to a broad array of life experiences and viewpoints, and who can bring diverse perspectives and experiences to the fellowship project, environmental health or rural health, and to public health in general. Applicants should highlight these attributes in their essay. And lastly, you'll need a faculty advisor. You'll need to include faculty advisor information. Now, this is only for applicants who have not yet graduated or whose transcript does not show the graduation date yet. An advisor will need to verify your graduation date if that's the case. Finally, if you are not a U.S. citizen, but instead a permanent resident, you will be asked to indicate that on your application. However, you will not be required to provide proof of residency status unless you are offered a position. Both green card holders and U.S. citizens will be required to provide proof of citizenship or residency status if you're offered a fellowship position. Now we're going to look at the application system. The first step in applying is to visit the ASPPH Fellowship application portal at fellowships-internships.asppph.org. This link is also available on the main fellowship page of the ASPPH website. You may log in or sign up for a new account directly from this page. Once you have logged in, you will come to the home page for the ASPPH application portal. This page shows any open applications at the top, including the application deadline and a link to view the full program announcement. The program announcement is the most important resource you have when applying to the fellowship program. It includes detailed information about the fellowship program, all open positions, eligibility, review procedures and criteria, timelines, and how to apply. We strongly recommend that you review the entire program announcement before starting an application. And this program announcement is available from the application portal shown here. And it's also available off the ASPPH Fellowships page on our main website. The home page of the application portal will also include some quick information and links to additional resources, including a My Status section shown here. Once you have submitted your application, you can track the progress of your application in this section. You can also find a user's manual with step-to-step instructions on how to submit an application at the bottom of the page in the resources section. You'll see here that there are 5 steps to complete and submit your application. Step 1 is the My Profile page, where you'll enter your personal and contact information. Please be sure to use a permanent email address for your application, as this is the email ASPPH will use to contact you about your application throughout the entire process. So a school email might not be the best option if you will not have access to it after you graduate. Step 2 is My Education, which is where you'll enter your degree information and upload your resume and transcript. Note that in the application system, you may upload an unofficial graduate transcript for the purpose of the application. And as mentioned earlier, if you're offered and accept a fellowship position, you will then be required to provide the official graduate transcript. In addition, when you enter your graduation date, if it has not yet occurred, you will be directed to enter your faculty advisor information. When you submit your application, the system will generate an email to your faculty advisor asking them to verify your expected graduation date. You should be sure to talk to your faculty advisor before the application deadline so that they are aware and will be prepared to respond. Step 3 is the My Application section. This is where you'll select the positions you're applying to and upload your essays, as well as enter the information for your references. You'll see a list of open positions for the program you are applying to on this page. If you are not sure which positions you want to apply to, there will be a link to the program announcement at the top of the page, which will include details about each position. You apply to the position you are interested in by uploading an essay to that particular position. You may apply to a maximum of 3 positions under each fellowship program. The system will not allow you to upload more than 3 essays under each program. So as an example, if you are interested in 3 different training areas for EPA, you will be able to apply to up to 3 positions and upload 3 essays under that program. However, you will also be able to submit an application for the 1 position that is available under USDA. The reference section at the bottom of the page is where you will enter the contact information for the 2 people who have agreed to write your letters of recommendation. There's no restriction on who you may request to be your reference, but it really should be someone who can speak to your experiences and qualifications for the program you are applying to. When you submit your application, the system will automatically generate an email to each of your references, asking them to submit their letter of recommendation. Now, one thing to point out here, we're in the process, and I believe it's already live, where there will be a button for you to generate the email. And the reason why this is helpful is because previously the system would not activate the email until you've hit the submit button and submitted your application. Now you will have control when the emails are sent to your recommenders and to your faculty advisor. We advise you to do that as soon as possible in order to allow them substantial time to write your letter and upload it into the system. Because remember, their deadline is your deadline. So all materials are due on the same application deadline date. In step 4, you will review your entire application. If you need to make any changes, you'll click on the pencil icon next to the section you want to revise, and it will take you back to that section to make any changes. The final step is to submit your application, which is step 5. Check the box to electronically sign your application and then hit the submit button. When your application is successfully submitted, you will receive a confirmation email. The system will also automatically generate the emails to your faculty advisor. However, as noted a little while ago, you'll have the option also to generate them on your own, and you'll be able to go back and resend as well. As mentioned earlier, your faculty advisor and references must also complete their sections by the same application deadline. Once you submitted your application, you may rescind it at any time prior to the deadline to make changes from your homepage by clicking on this pencil icon shown here. As long as you resubmit by the application deadline, your application will be reviewed. This is a good option if you want to go in and make any additional changes to your resume, CV, or to your essays after you've submitted. However, just remember that if you rescind, you must resubmit your application or it will not be reviewed. ASPPH will not accept incomplete applications. So this includes the missing information and submissions from your references or faculty advisor. The application deadline, once again, is also the deadline for them to submit their documents. So please make sure they are well aware of the deadline. Once the deadline has passed, ASPPH will review all applications for completeness and eligibility. We'll update your status in the system when your application has been verified and moved along to the review stage. You can view your application status at any time you are logged into the system. The system will also automatically send you an email update and with the change in your status. This is also where you will see if your recommenders and advisor have submitted their materials for you. If you see that they have not, you might want to send them a friendly reminder. ASPPH ensures that all eligible completed applications submitted by the deadline will be reviewed in an open, fair, and objective process. Each application is reviewed by 2 faculty or staff members from ASPPH member institutions, but not from the same institution as the applicant. Applications will be scored according to criteria noted in the program announcement, and the top applicants will progress to the next phase, the technical review. During that time, applicants may be contacted for interviews directly by the host agency. Moving on to the technical review phase will not guarantee that an applicant will receive an interview, only that the application has been sent to the placement agency for final review. It is possible that not all applicants in the technical review phase will be interviewed. In addition, for the ASPPH EPA Fellowship, there is a step for a formal Zoom-based panel interview. The interviews will be held virtually in mid-April. All applicants who advance to this stage are required to participate in this panel interview in order to be considered for final placements. The top applicants from the interviews will progress to the technical review at EPA. Individuals selected for positions with each will be contacted directly by ASPPH via phone and email. Those applicants who are not selected will be notified from ASPPH by email. The timeline for each program will vary. You can refer to our website and the specific program announcement to review important dates for the program in which you are interested. So this ends our formal presentations. We're now going to open the lines for questions. Please click the button for the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen and type your question into the box. I will then direct your question to Anna if it pertains to her, or I will do my best to answer the question for you. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share for now so we can read the questions, and I'll go through those. So first we have, can you apply if you have received a master's degree and are currently in school to obtain a doctorate degree, or does the doctoral degree need to be completed as well? If your master's degree was received from a CEPH, ASPPH member accredited school of public health, and it was received within the last 5 years, then that degree can be the degree that you use for the application. However, if it's your doctorate degree, that's the public health degree, then you do need to make sure that your degree is received prior to beginning the fellowship. So I hope that answers your question. But whatever, so you can use either degree as your the degree that you're using for to meet your requirement. But again, the degree has to be a public health degree from an ASPPH member, CEPH accredited school or program of public health. And that degree must have been received within the previous 5 years or must be received by the time the fellowship begins. So another question is, how many fellows will be placed for the USDA fellowship? For the USDA fellowship, this is a brand new program and we will be placing only one fellow this year. Our hope is that in coming years, we'll be able to bump that up to more each year. We're working with USDA toward that possibility now. We have another question. Since remote work will be considered for the USDA position, will that be decided if that is, when will that be decided? I think it's going to depend on who we believe will be the best match for that position. Obviously, if it's possible to have somebody located here in Washington, D.C., we would prefer to have somebody who can actually go into the office at least periodically to work directly with their mentors and with other USDA staff. However, if it's somebody who, for personal reasons, prefers not to relocate to Washington, then and USDA feels strongly that that person is the best match for the program, then that's when we will be more flexible in allowing somebody to work remotely. So it's going to depend on who's selected or who they want for the position, and in order to secure the best possible match for the program, we will be more flexible. The next question is it possible to submit the letter of recommendation request before submitting the full application? Yes, so as I mentioned, we just recently, this literally just went into place, I believe late Friday afternoon. Our IT developers added some new buttons that will allow you to send the email to your recommenders. So you'll be able to send the letter yourself from inside the system. I'm sorry, send the email to your recommenders from inside the system. And what that allows you to do is to make sure that they get it prior to submitting your application. In all the previous application processes, that wasn't the case. What our applicants had to do was to actually submit their application so that the system would then auto-generate the emails to their recommenders, and then resend your application in order to go back in and complete the rest of your application if you had not already done that, which can cause a bit of confusion. So we're really making an effort to make the system a little more user-friendly. So now that it allows you to generate the emails yourself, then you will be able to do that and then continue on with your application without actually submitting it. But if for whatever reason you do submit the application prior to the deadline, you will be able to rescind, make any changes, or to resend the emails to your recommenders, for example, and then resubmit. You just need to be very careful and make sure you do resubmit prior to the deadline. Next question is, do you happen to know how many fellows will be selected? Same question. So for USDA, again, only one for this year. And will the ASPPH EPA Fellowship consider remote applicants? As of now, they have, I've been told that they're, for this year, obviously in the last 2 years, that wasn't the case because of COVID, but now that the agencies are having more of a handle on it and staff is returning to the office, they do favor applicants who can relocate to Washington, D.C. or to RTP North Carolina or the regional office, wherever the position will happen to be. So as of right now, they will not be accepting remote applicants, but that could possibly change if there are extenuating circumstances for that particular applicant. And similarly to with the USDA program, if that office strongly believes that a particular applicant is the best match for their position, then they could possibly consider a remote candidate at that time. And we have, is the stipend for those with PhDs the same regardless of years postdoctoral experience? Yes, there are 2 levels of stipend level for master's level and doctoral level. And that's regardless of how many years postdoc that applicant happens to be. There's also the consideration that you must have been within 5 years of the degree. So our applicants, in order to be eligible, will not be that far out from their postdoctoral experience. So whether you're 1 year or 5 years, you will receive the same stipend level. So how many fellows will be placed for the EPA program? That's a really good question. For that program, it works a little differently. So right now, I don't have any idea how many fellows will be placed. That's because it's going to be based on the host offices who identify the funding and the desire to host a fellow, and that's not going to come until later in March or April. So right now for the EPA fellowship, the way you apply is through training areas. So you will express the training areas in which you are most interested. So if it's environmental justice, for example, or if it's children's environmental health, you will note that, and then your application will be routed to those offices at EPA if they are interested in hosting fellows themselves. And then you will not know which positions that that are looking for fellows until after the panel interview process. So it's going to be a while before you know exactly if, for example, the Office of Water will in fact be taking a fellow, or the Office of Air will be taking a fellow. That will not be decided on until later. But at the point of interviews, that's when you will know. So if I contact you and say that, the Office of Children's Health Protection wants to interview you for their position, then you will know. You'll know the office that will be interviewing you, and you will know where that office is located. So for example, if it's here in DC, or if it's in RTP North Carolina, or if it's in a regional office for EPA. So unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly that information yet because I don't know it, and we won't have that information until a little further along in the process. So we have, can your designated faculty advisor also write a letter of recommendation for you? Yes, absolutely. It can be the same person, and it often is. So Anna, I have a question for you. They're asking if you can speak a little about the guidance you received during the program, both from ASPPH and from your EPA host office.
Yeah, of course I can. As far as ASPPH, the guidance I received was, one, helping me match with like an office of my interests, and two, they were really structured. They kind of helped guide both the office I was with and myself on like an organizational structure for the project of my fellowship, and help set like goals and like give me ideas of things that I didn't think about to accomplish during my fellowship, things that like I didn't realize I could access, and resources like that. On the EPA side, I had a lower level mentor and an upper level mentor. My upper level mentor I would meet with about every month, and he would connect me. We talk about my interests and what I thought I might like in the EPA, and he would connect me with people in other offices, so that I could do little informational interviews with them and learn more about the types of work that they were doing. And kind of, he also gave me tips on applying to full-time federal jobs, how to navigate the USA jobs process so that you make it past the first kind of like rounds of review, because it's really hard to make it through that. And then my lower level mentor helped me learn about more of the nitty gritty details about how government works. And we met weekly, and guidance on like technical review of my project, got me involved in like work group teams that were to my interests, so that I was participating in some like EPA actual projects and giving some input on decision making processes, not like as much as I would or as I am now as a full-time employee, but I was still getting to put input and giving my technical expertise and like official capacity almost. So that's kind of what guidance I got from there. I hope that answers your questions. Feel free to ask me more if you need it.
Great, thanks so much, Anna. So the next question is, would you be able to share the compensation salary for the EPA fellowship? So what I'm going to do really quickly is share my screen again, because I think this will be helpful for you to see where on our website you find that information. So this is the ASPPH main website. And as I mentioned before, if you go up here to students and alumni, you'll see fellowships and internships right at the top. You're going to click that, and that'll take you to our main fellowships and internships homepage. And here is where you'll see information. So at the top of the list, you'll have the open applications. So of course for USDA and EPA are both open. And on January 20th, you'll also see that CDC will also be accepting applications. But for now, USDA and EPA are open. You'll see this button here, Learn More, under each. If you click on that, you'll go to the program announcement. And this is the document that I mentioned earlier that is your primary resource. The program announcement is going to have all the information that you will need. So it'll have review eligibility, period of performance, location, and funds available. So if you see here, for EPA, the fellowship position for master's level is $60,471 for the year, and the stipend for a doctoral level fellow or any other advanced graduate degree is $73,626. And then it'll go on, it'll have expected benefits, more information on the application procedure, much of which we reviewed today. It reviews the criteria on which the objective review committee will base your scores. It'll also mention, for example, with EPA, where you'll be required to participate in the panel review. And then it'll also include the training areas to which you will be applying. So this, as I mentioned earlier, public health and climate crisis, EJ and civil rights, clean and healthy air for all communities, et cetera. This reviews all the different positions that you'll be eligible for. And similarly, if you click on the USDA link, that'll take you to the program announcement for the USDA program, and it'll have all the information there about that particular position. So I strongly encourage you to go to the ASPPH website and access the program announcements for the fellowships from there. It's also, if you click here, apply, it'll take you to the link to where you will access the applications. And I can't take you in there because that's my administrative profile. So I won't have the same view that you will have as an applicant, but you can also link directly to the application from that point. So I will go ahead and stop sharing now and go back to the questions. So now, what weight does having a CPH carry on who is selected? The only time it really comes down to play, we say that it's preferred, but we also, many of our fellows, when they come on board, do not have a CPH, and we do strongly encourage them to pursue a CPH during the actual fellowship, because those fellows who have access, if they are awarded a travel and training stipend, again, not all fellows do receive that, but if they do, you can use some of those funds to support the cost of the test for the CPH and any training materials. Typically, ASPPH will also provide training materials at no cost for fellows. So we say it's preferred, and usually that'll just come down to the wire. For example, if two applicants are neck and neck, and they're equally qualified and they're equally strong fits for the same position, then it could be a tipping point there. But otherwise, it's really going to depend more on your own attributes and experience, your career goals, that type of thing. That's really what's going to be more important when finding the best match for each position. Then we have, what does the technical review consist of? Is that basically interviews? And yes, so during the technical review phase, that's when you will interview directly with folks at the host agency. So at the USDA, EPA, CDC, et cetera. We will provide them with a list of the finalists for their particular position or training area, and then they will review your application materials, and they will decide which applicants they want to actually speak to. And typically those will be done through Microsoft Teams or Zoom calls, that type of thing. But essentially they're just interviews, but they are specifically with the host agencies. So we have a question, how many people, again, will be selected from the fellowships? As I mentioned a little while ago, we don't know at this point. My guess is we'll have 3 to 5 fellows this coming year. But again, I don't know which offices are going to be placing fellows. I don't know where they're going to be geographically located. I have none of that information yet. That'll come later on in the process, but you will be informed of that information if you're selected, if and when you are selected to interview with the host agency. So if you make it to the technical review phase, before you interview, you will be notified which office you're interviewing with, where that position is located, et cetera. That way you'll have the information in order to do a little research and prepare for the interviews. So for the EPA fellowship, if I am reapplying or if I am applying to 3 different areas, do the people writing letters of recommendation have to write 3 letters each? So no. Essentially, what you'll want to advise them to do is to reference the program, not the position. So you will want different letters. So if you have the same person writing, if you decide to apply to both USDA and EPA or EPA and CDC, you will want different letters for the programs, but not necessarily for each position. So when they write the letter, they'll say, I strongly recommend, so-and-so for ASPPH EPA fellowship program. And just reference the program, not the position. If they're writing, or if you're applying to more than one program, then you will also ask them to please write a letter that says that they strongly recommend you to for the ASPPH CDC Public Health Fellowship Program, or whichever programs you're applying to. So it can be the exact same letter if it speaks equally to each of the different programs, or they might want to tailor it a bit to the program. But really, you just want to make sure that they reference the right program, but it doesn't need to go down to detail of the actual position. So are there fellowship requirements other than the final report and assessment, conference attendance, presentations, et cetera? Now so for the USDA and EPA program, now they're at the beginning of your fellowship, you're required to identify or to develop what we refer to as a fellowship framework. And those are your goals, objectives, and activities for the 12-month fellowship placement period. If you continue for more than 1 year, you'll have to do a new framework for the second year, because assumably you will have achieved your goals and objectives for year 1. So then you'll identify new ones for your second year. So that is a requirement, and then you will submit 6-month, 9-month, and 12-month progress reports. At the culmination of your fellowship, you'll be required to submit a fellowship evaluation and a few other closeout requirements. But that's really all there is for that program, or for USDA and EPA. For CDC, you also have a set of competencies that you will be expected to work toward. You won't be expected to become experts in, all 7 domains and, all the numerous competencies, but they serve as a general guideline that the CDC does expect you to reach toward during your fellowship assignment period. And you will be required to do a pre-test assessment and a pre-fellowship assessment and a post-fellowship assessment in order to track your growth toward those competencies. But that is just with our CDC fellowship. Okay. Oh, and so Anna, there's a note for you. I don't know if you saw that, but somebody says, thank you and congrats on your fellowship experience and your new position. That's always.
Yeah. I saw it. I filled out while you were answering some, I typed some answers and the answers
awesome.
to a few.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just as a short note, that's always best case scenario for us, is for our fellows to continue on at the federal agency. So after the agency has invested the time and resources into our fellows, it makes sense for them to take you on as an FTE. It's not always possible, but when it is, it's win-win situation for everybody, for the fellow, for ASPPH, and for the host agency. So we're happy to say that many of our fellows do continue on at their host agencies. So that is really great when that happens. So we have who is included in the panel during the panel review for the EPA program. So there are 3 panelists who will interview the candidates, and it is this year it'll be all 3 will be EPA, ASPPH EPA fellow alumni. So so all 3 interviewers will have once been fellows themselves. So and they're now off in working as professionals in environmental health and public health. So it's nice to have folks who are interviewing, who really understand the program, who knows what it takes to succeed in the program, and who are also available to answer questions of the applicants. So when you get to that point, you'll have 3 fellow alumni who can answer any questions you might have during the interview about the fellowship program. So then we have, does ASPPH stay in touch with fellows? What happens if a problem occurs at a host agency or you have to leave the program? So ASPPH, absolutely. So you will hear from me throughout your assignment period. So not only because you have requirements to ASPPH, so the fellowship framework, your progress reports, ASPPH, we're also the ones who pay you. So we're the ones who submit or who process your stipend payments. If you have access to a travel and training allowance, I'm the one who processes those payments for you for reimbursement for any travel, conferences, training that you might do. And even though you're not a quote unquote employee of ASPPH or the host agency, because you're there as part of a training program, You can look at ASPPH more for like the HR type of issues. So if there are any issues you have during the fellowship, I will be your primary point of contact. So for whatever reason, I mean, we've had fellows who have had, personality conflicts. They just don't get along with their mentor. Fortunately, that doesn't happen very often, but it happens, because we're all human. Or we've had fellows who, who have had to take maternity leave, or who have had to take a leave of absence to care for a sick loved one, or other types of situations. I will be that person that fellows will reach out to in those instances, or if they have questions about, about payroll or stipend payments or any of those day-to-day administrative type things. ASPPH is the organization that will be handling that for you, not CDC or EPA or USDA. So you can think of ASPPH as more of an employer, even though we're not your employer, we're the administrator of the program. So we're the ones that you will come to for any questions or any concerns, complications, or anything like that. And I am the primary contact for ASPPH Fellowships. So you would come to me for those things. Okay. So that concludes. Any last minute questions? Anybody want to type in? No. All right. Well, then that concludes our webinar for today. I truly appreciate you taking the time to join us and to learn more about the application process and the available opportunities for this year. Again, if you want to learn more about the CDC fellowships, we'll have information about those during our webinar in January and again in February. Or please feel free to tell any of your friends or colleagues who are also eligible and interested in the fellowship programs that they will be able to jump on those webinars. And in addition, this recording to this fellowship webinar will be available probably next week, I'm thinking, on our website. So they will either you can go back if you want to re-listen to something, or if you want to send it to a friend who wasn't able to be on the webinar today, the recording will be available soon on the ASPPH website. So with that, thank you again for taking the time, and I look forward to receiving all your applications. Happy holidays, everyone, and take care. Bye-bye.